Hey, sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Seminary. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. Why is it that why people are very used to using another person's words, especially when they have black friends, right? And sometimes their black friend might give them a pass, right? And they will use the same pass that you gave them. They will come and use it on me. Because to them, every black person is the same. They do not believe that your belief and my belief might not be the same. Because that is how a white person that visits Nigeria will come and tell you that he has a friend in Zimbabwe. Do you know him? You are in Nigeria and you are asking me, do I know your friend in Zimbabwe? That is how they do it. Because when they agree with somebody, they will want to come and use that on you. I remember there was a video that went around sometime about a white man who did some racist thing to the case, and people eventually they found him to interview him, and they asked him, "Are you racist?" He said, "No, he's not. That he has a black dog. That's why he cannot be racist." This is how majority, like 90% of them think. Let's get into this video.
The way a white person talks about people of color when they're angry is what shows their true colors. Prior to Trump's presidency, it wasn't in style to be racist, and actually it was looked down upon. White people realized that they could lose their jobs, and so they became better and better at hiding it. And because of this, the only way that they would reveal their true feelings is when a person of color makes them angry. For instance, take a look at this video with Sh0ck.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Sh0ck.
And I would say this phenomenon is pretty common among white people. They might seem like they're okay until someone makes them upset, and then they result to slurs, name calling, etc. It's something you see a lot in comment sections as well, and essentially what's happening is that the more threatened they feel, the more they need to lash out. They're so used to being in power and respected all the time that when a person of color, quote, steps out of line in their eyes, then they immediately feel the need to retaliate. And sometimes it's just verbal assaults, like calling somebody slurs, and other times it actually does lead to physical violence. This is just a reminder that the only way to see how some white people feel about you truly is when they're angry. And if they get really out of line, even if they apologize, you should absolutely not be friends with this person because they clearly do not value you or your life.
One of the most interesting things that white nationalists and racist apologists do is whenever there's a conversation about racism and there might be an individual that they like at the center of that conversation about racism, they usually, instead of having an actual conversation about that topic or that individual that might be racist, find a black person that agrees with them to argue against the black people that don't. Now, it's usually the black person that agrees with them that's in the minority of black people. And I want you to understand why they do this. It's very interesting and nefarious. It's their way of telling you that whatever you have to say doesn't matter to them, and here's a black person that agrees with me. It's the black friend trope. I can't be racist because I have black friends. So when it comes to the current individual at the center of all of the controversy and the fact that he was in fact racist, they typically will find black conservatives, MAGA supporting peoples, or Candace Owens herself to argue against black people that know, right, that have given multiple examples of said individuals clear racism. You see, I've said before and I will say again, for a lot of people, what they view as racism, even though they're not black, is a high threshold that no one can clear. And the reason why they make it so high is because they do a lot of racist shit and they don't want to consider themselves racist because that would mean that they're bad people. So they'll look at all of the clearly racist shit that this individual is doing, even the individual that's sitting in the White House. And because they voted for him and they can't say, well, I didn't vote for this, they'll just simply say that what they were doing, what this individual was doing, wasn't racist because they agree with everything that this individual was doing and saying. And they often say and do the same things. I want people to understand, people that find the black person to argue against the majority of black people are simply telling you that black people's opinions don't matter to them. They are letting you know that they're one person that they found because that one person is willing to excuse racism is more important than you. And when you see them do that shit, just know who they are. Understand that that's another person that's telling you exactly who they are. Because no one in your circle that values you as a person would excuse racism the way a lot of these people are. Yeah.
What's up, white people? Let's talk again, because we can't be friends and allies if we don't understand each other, right? Now, I have heard from black people throughout my life that they just assume that every white person is racist. And until this week, I thought that was such a dumbass thing to think. How is that? And if you walk around and you think that all white people are racist and you treat them based off of that assumption, how is that any different from when they make assumptions about us? That's still racism, right? But this week made me realize a totally different perspective. And I want to have this discussion with white people, right? Because what we have seen this week, as I described in a recent video, we see white people that we love, that have supported us as allies, as friends, as neighbors, as co-workers, as peers, whatever it may be. This has been a friendly relationship our entire lives, whether it's a platonic one, a romantic one. It's always been good. You know, we don't give a fuck about the racists. We're not talking about them right now, right? I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying, the ones that are invited to the cookout, for lack of better words, right? So me, who's had predominantly positive experiences with white people throughout my life, right? Why would I adopt this notion of just assuming every white person is racist? I realized this week that the black people that do that, they aren't doing that to use that as an excuse to treat white people a certain way. It's not that at all. It's not the same as when a white person really has no real reason to be fucking racist. They just are, and then they use that lack of logic and reason to treat black people negatively. It's not the same, right? Because I experienced heartbreak this week. I felt betrayed. I felt disappointment, right? Because I saw my white friends expect me to sympathize with the fucking racists, right? So now if I were to go about my life and just assume that every white person was racist, it's not because I need to use that as some fucked up excuse to treat y'all negatively. It's a tactic to protect my own heart so I don't feel what I felt this week, or that impact, that blow isn't as drastic, right? And that's sad. It shouldn't come to that. But I finally understand what they might have meant when they say that they just assume that all white people are racist. Even if it's to the most minimal degree, it's still present, right? Because we would rather make that assumption and be entirely wrong than not make that assumption and feel the same pain that I felt this week over and over and over and over and over again. It's a protection tactic to protect our own heart. Because time and time again, we've thought that we could trust our white friends and our white coworkers and our white neighbors. And then, for example, this week, they want us to sympathize with somebody that literally said that Juneteenth shouldn't be a holiday. The end of slavery shouldn't have been celebrated. The civil rights movement was a mistake, so forth and so on. So in an effort to minimize the level of heartbreak myself and many other black people experienced this week alone from people we thought that we could trust, people we thought had our best interest in mind, just like we have their best interest in mind, right? In an effort to minimize the pain that comes with that heartbreak, there's logic behind going outside and assuming that every white person is racist to some degree. So if they do, in fact, prove that they are, that blow of betrayal isn't as detrimental or as painful. And I hope that makes sense to you, because it's sad that we've come to that. But just because we don't see white people going outside spraying black people with hoses, and we don't see segregated water fountains and things like that, too many white people just sweep all of the microaggressions and things that allude to racism under the rug. It's almost like y'all are saying, well, y'all aren't slaves anymore, so what are y'all complaining about? A lot. Quite a bit, actually, if you must know. So I don't think I'm readily just going to go outside and assume every white person is racist. There's still some hypocrisy in that approach to some degree, but I do understand the black people that do. I want to clarify this, right? When they say, "Oh, I just assume all white people are racist," they're not saying that, and then right after that, they're saying, "And that's why I treat them badly." No, they're not saying, "I assume all white people are racist," and using that as an excuse to treat them poorly. They're saying, "I assume all white people are racist, but I still hang out with them. They're still my friends. I still love them. I still wish the best for them. But I have to keep that assumption in the back of my head. So if true colors do come to light." My heart has been impacted by that too many times for me to not take precaution. I hope that makes sense.
Low black racial self-esteem is keeping white racial self-esteem high in this country. That is contentious. I'm okay with saying that and standing on it, and I know there are going to be white and black people who call into question my blackness because I am a black biracial woman. But I do know low racial self-esteem up close and personal because my black father had the lowest racial self-esteem I've ever seen, and I've been estranged from my family for the better part of a decade, mostly in part because I was constantly met with violence for calling into question my father's anti-blackness, his misogynoir, his self-hatred, and his low racial self-esteem. Because of his eagerness and willingness to perform and pander for white supremacy and white supremacist approval at the expense of himself and his children. I know that I'm here as a result of my father's low racial self-esteem. I can't change it, I didn't choose it, but I do get to decide how I move in this world as a black woman, as a pro-black black woman, who upholds the values instilled by the black women who stepped in and raised me when my father and his anti-black parenting and character fell short. To that exact point about low racial self-esteem, why are so many black people mourning the loss of a white supremacist? It would make sense for biracial folks to mourn the death of a white supremacist because the call would be coming from within the house, from within the parent in that house. But to black folks who are not related to white people in that way, why are y'all mourning the death of a white supremacist? Where is that call coming from? I can only think religious indoctrination, internalized white supremacy, and low racial self-esteem. Because that energy is synonymous with the black folks who sold out other black people attempting to execute liberation. It's giving you would have sold out Harriet. It's giving you would have wept over slave owners dying. It's giving you would have condemned Nat Turner. And that is anti-black. That is low racial self-esteem. We do not need to prove that we are the morality standard to the same people who ate our ancestors, who justified killing our ancestors and enslaving our ancestors. Y'all are mourning the death of a white man who upholds the same ideology that oppressed your 2 black parents, your 4 black grandparents, your 8 black great-grandparents, and so on. Whole ancestral lineage. They are not the morality standard. It does not make sense to mourn the death of racists.
This is all I got from this video. I have said one thing before and I am going to say it again. The day I start supporting people that oppress my own people, when I say my own people, I mean my own people. The day I start supporting people that oppress my own people and at the same time oppress me. Because when my people are oppressed, I am also oppressed. The day I stand with them, just know it's over, because I cannot be a black woman and support nonsense. I was raised properly. They also know that what they are doing is not okay. They also know that what they stand for is not okay. They know that they do not have moral high ground. They know that. Like one of the brothers said that one thing they know how to see, the way they reverse. They love to do reverse psychology. That's why most times when I see people that have friends that do not stand on business, I call them coons, because that is what you are. Most of you black people that look like me, give them passes that they will come out tomorrow to tell me that I agree with this person on this. Who are you to tell me who you agree with? I am not that person, and I have grounds. I can stand on something. I don't care who you agree with. Go back to the person you agree with and sort it out. That's why some black people, we give them pass to use the N word. Use it on me and get your teeth knocked out, because it does happen. And they've been doing it. I have been seeing them pulling also Merkel's quotes and Black Heroes quotes, turn it around, use it against you. It's reverse psychology that they look for a way to, the way they tell you there is reverse racism. And I don't know why they do it, but I have been here bringing videos and they do it every day. And you cannot come and tell me you agree with somebody when I am not that person. And they are so perfect in doing it. I cannot be racist because I have a black friend. I am sure you all saw that video of a white man who did some rate deceased something to kids in the bus, and they ended up finding him to interview him. And they asked him if he's rate deceased. He said no. How can he be rate deceased when his dog is black? I am not lying. I cannot lie. I'm not saying that there are places, but there are some things I won't come and start lying to you about. And if you've been on this channel for so long, you absolutely will know that this is true. He said he has black dog, and for that reason, he cannot lie. That's why he cannot be rate deceased. What does black dog got to do with black lives? That is how low he went. But he meant what he actually said. Don't think he didn't mean it. Like Long Live Judah said, you cannot be my ally when we do not understand each other. And that is true. Bye for now.